Hello, I'm Jay Jermaine Bey, Chief Qazi of Allodium, Moorish Praedium, Ante, Colorado. The acronym is AMPAC. I am the judge over a consular court. Today we're very excited. Today we're back into our building. As a lot of Moors know, our big, large groups were broken up because of COVID-19, and today we're excited to come back into our office building now. That way we can enjoy some of the extra lighting that we get to make our videos and have our classes and just more space. So we want to thank the good brother for allowing us to use this domicile for the last few months in order to maintain our government. All right, so we want to say thank you to good brother Kanye Show Bay. All right, thank you, good brother. All right, so we're going to get right into our subject matter. So it's a continued subject matter. Keep in mind today is class 10, what do we go over in class number 9, part 9? What did we go over? We started talking about something very specific that Moors need to add to their vernacular. And what is that? We found out that Moors are considered to be either Moorish subjects, Moorish proteges, or Moorish nationals. How do we find that information out? By studying law and history. We found out something specific as it relates to the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. And what do we find out? That they allowed the United States of America to still have jurisdiction over Moors who classify themselves as ipso jure Moorish subjects, or Moors who go under the status of Moorish proteges. However, all states around the world, all countries around the world, all will know that when you're a national of your state, you immediately have protections from the International Charter of the United Nations. So Moors have to start understanding there's only 3 classifications: ipso jure Moorish subject, Moorish protege, or Moorish national. But you have to make a pick. What else did we find out? We found out that the ICJ started pointing out specifics as to what the Moors have to do in order to get their sovereignty back. Now, they didn't say it specifically about the Moors, but it's what you call serendipitous. Serendipitous means they exposed something. You got a 2-for-1 out of this Moors. France was able to get the ICJ to expose some things about how Moors could get their rights back if Moors studied international law, right? So today we'll start talking about how the Moors get the land back from these colonists who are maintaining what's called extraterritorial jurisdiction. But the reality is they don't have extraterritorial jurisdiction over Moors because Moors don't have a state. If Moors don't have a state, the United States is saying, well, Moors don't have a state, so therefore, the United States of America is not usurping or extending over into a Moorish state because Moors don't have a state to usurp. That's what the United Nations is saying. That's what the ICJ is saying. That's what the United States of America is saying. That's what the other nations around the world are saying. These Moors haven't been reading the instructions. And what are the instructions? You must have a state. Until you have a state, you come under the protections of the country you live in, that you reside in. You don't domicile. You reside if you don't have your own state. That is the truth. So the United States of America has been getting away with the fact that the Moors didn't have a state, so they're just practicing jurisdiction in general. They haven't made a distinction because the Moors have failed to make a distinction. So we'll talk about that today. What is the distinction that the Moors have to make? Now let's say this for the record. Tariq Bey always talks about status. He'll tell us in a minute, it's not racism, it's your status. But we need to go deeper than just the word status. The reality is this. Yes, Moors have proclaimed their nationality. But according to international law, you must start to do what? Check the boxes. You have to create a government. All states around the world. Keep in mind, Africa has 54 states. All of them have a flag and a seal, government. Europe has 50 states. All of them have a flag, seal, government. The continent of America has 35 states. All of them have a flag, a seal, and a government. Okay, the question is this. Where's the Moors state? Don't get me wrong, AMPAC has a state. We're poised with full powers as it relates to international law. But let's talk about the other Moors. Where's the other Moor state? That's the instruction of the ICJ. So we're talking status. Keep in mind, the ICJ created a status for Moors because they had to take a look at what? Treaties, declarations, etc. What were they looking for? Find out what was the statuses. They found out that there's 3 statuses. Moorish subjects, Moorish proteges, and Moorish nationals. And until Moors have a state, then they're not considered Moorish nationals, which means they come under the protections of somebody else's state, which means Moors are stateless people until they have a state. It's that simple. So when Judge Bey said, it's your status, yes, you must proclaim your nationality. After that, you got to check the boxes. Nationality is the first box. After that, according to international law, your status is based upon your state. We're going to learn more about that. So status is important in law. All right? So today we'll go over several documents. We'll qualify what the good brother Judge Bey has been saying. We'll qualify what the international courts have been saying. We'll qualify what the United Nations has been trying to tell us. We'll qualify what France has been trying to help the Moors with. That's the truth. All right. So first things first, let's talk about status. So in the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, let's look up the word status. All right? So you can find the word status, I believe, on page 1580 in the Black's Law Dictionary. So we can have one of the mothers read the word status because everything is about status as it relates to nationals. And guess what? Status relates to Moorish subjects, status relates to Moorish proteges, and status relates to Moorish nationals. Pick one. Well, we're going to learn what status is for the record. Okay, Mother, if you can read it, please.
Status, standing, state or condition, case law. The legal relation of individual to rest of the community, case law. The rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class. Case law. Illegal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the parties with which third persons and the states are concerned. Terminable at the mere will of the parties with which third persons and the states are concerned. Case law. While term implies relation, it is not a mere relation.
Stop. Okay. We're going to continue the rest of the reading in just a moment. Let's just break down what we've already read, right? There's no use in reading it and not comprehending. So let's use our Moorish science. Let's go back and break down status because everything Moors are talking about right now is status. Their nationality card is status. The plates on their conveyance is status. Your fez is a status. Your pins is your status. Everything, your turbans, your proclamation documents, everything is status. Let's learn status. Here we go. First things first, standing. They say Moors must stand on their square. Status is standing. Okay? Standing. Standing in what? Law. Watch this. Standing. State or condition. You want to talk status? You must talk state. The legal relations of individuals to the rest of their community. So what's happening? Your state creates the legal, the laws, the common law for your community. What's the community? Your nationals. Your nationals. Not your subjects, not your proteges, your nationals. Watch this. The rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class. What's that about? That's about status. Status of what? Your state. What does your state do? Give you rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class. What's the class? Classification of your state. And what is the classification when you're a part of a state? Moorish national. When you're stateless, you become a Moorish subject. When you're stateless, you become a protege. Moors want their rights. You need a state that creates your status. That is the status, being a Moorish national. Watch this. A legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable, at the mere will of the parties with which third persons and the state are concerned. What does that mean? That's an interesting read. A legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable, at the mere will of the parties which the third persons and states are concerned. What does that mean? You have a relationship as a national with your other nationals. It cannot be terminated because it comes through your constitution and your state. It cannot be terminated because of your consanguinity coming together as a community, as a Moorish nationals. What else does it say? It says what? In which third persons and states are concerned. Who are the third persons? Other states that see you as a state. They're concerned. They said, you have a state? Okay, we can talk to you because you're qualified to talk to another state. You're a qualified officials of your state, or you're a national of your state. You're no longer stateless. Let's continue. While term implies relation, it's not a mere relation. Watch this. While term implies, what term? State. Implies relation, it is not a mere relation. What does that mean? Watch this. United States versus Burton was a 10th district court case that came out against a Moor who said he was a Moor. That was his mere expression. That was what's called his moral authority. That's called mere. He couldn't prove it. You just can't merely say you're a Moor, you got a nationality. You must prove it on the record with the material fact. It's what they call a state of facts. And what's the fact? That your mother flag, along with your provincial flag that created the state and the Constitution, created the state of fact that can be validated through substantive evidence, through discovery, because your mother claimed you back, took you back from your adopted parent. The state claims their own nationals. It makes you a Moorish national, and you're no longer classified as a Moorish subject or protege. It's only 3 classifications: subject, protege, national. Let's continue. Okay, mother, let's go ahead and read the rest.
It also means estate because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property.
Stop. Case law.
Case law.
All right. Status is estate. Moors must understand that the estate is part and parcel to the state. This is the estate flag of the empire. Morocco's an empire. This is the estate. Relates to the land. The state and the estate are part and parcel of each other. You create your state. There's part and parcel to the estate. The people and the estate are one. They come together as one. They're synonymous. The estate is the people, along with the state. It's part and parcel. So when you start understanding status is about estate and status about the people, they all come together. So Moors got to understand that just created a pyramid. What am I talking about? Your estate created the state, and the state creates the nationals of the state. So you're talking about your pyramid. Your pyramid, this is your pyramid, the base of your pyramid right here. Your estate and your provincial flag is the base. What becomes the tip? The nationals, the people. These are your political statements. Political statements. And the people make these come to fruition. That's your pyramid. That's your mother, father, child. Constitution is a birth record of a nation. Mothers have to learn how to put together, through their matriarchal council, legislation to bring their nationals back into the constitutional fold of government and make nationals and take them away from a subject status or a protege status. That's the truth. Okay, let's look up the next word. Status quo. Status quo, 2 words. Status quo is on page 1581, Black's Law Dictionary. We're talking status. Remember now, the ICJ put the Moors in 3 statuses. The treaties put the Moors in 3 statuses. France put the Moors in 3 statuses. The United States of America put the Moors in 3 statuses. What's the 3 statuses? Subject, protege, national. Pick one. We're talking about that today. What is status quo? Moors always sending their documents. They love to put on there. Abolition of jurisdiction, quo warranto. What does that mean? You're challenging the jurisdiction. What gives them the delegation of authority orders to have jurisdiction over Moors? That's what you're asking. You're asking them, the colonists. And the colonists looking at the Moors saying, where's your delegation of authority orders? Where's your state? You Moors ain't reading the instructions. Guess what? United States of America, not confused with the United States, has checked all these boxes. Even though they're de facto, they got these boxes checked nonetheless. Where's the Moor state? Guess what? It's a high probability they don't have one. But they want to have checks and balances on the colonists. Colonists saying, you Moors don't read. You're not following international law. Don't get me wrong, AMPAC has a state. We are poised with full powers to deal with the Wizard of Oz, i.e. United States of America, not to be confused with the United States. That's the truth. So now we're going to read status quo. We're talking status. Status is what? The people. That's the East state, and the Moorish nationals coming together. That's full circle. That's a circle. That's a hole. A triangle is a hole. It's 360 degrees. All right. Okay, mother, if you can read status quo.
The existing state of things at any given date. Status quo antebellum. The state of things before the war. Last actual, peaceable, non-contested condition which preceded pending controversy.
Thank you, mother. Let's go back and use our Moorish science. What does that mean? Comprehend, forensics. We're going to read. Watch this. Status quo. What does quo mean? Question. Questioning what? Someone's status. The existing state. Your status must be state before you even ask someone a question. Moors, listen to me. If you're asking the colonists what is their status, you're asking them the question. Well, first question you got to do is ask yourself, do you have a state? There's a high probability the answer is no. Okay, but you still want to ask the colonist, what is his status? Okay, so what's the definition say? The existing state. United States of America said, we got a state. Watch this. Of things of any given date. Status quo antebellum, the state of things before the war. Listen, that's your post-millennium question. That's your what's called reparations question. That's your restoration question. That's your adverse claim question. But guess what? Moors can't ask that question until they have a state. Only Moorish nationals can ask United States of America nationals what their status is. Subjects are stateless. Proteges are stateless. Moorish nationals can ask the question of another state. It's state on state dispute, questioning each other's authority of jurisdiction. Last actual, peaceable, non-contested condition which preceded pending controversy. So what does that mean? Before there was a war, there wasn't post-millennium. People were just at peace. They had their own state. The Moors had their own governments. The Moors built all of these so-called museums, historical buildings, courthouses, capitol buildings. Moors built all this around the world. We were in sync. So therefore, we must get our status quo back, but we must create our own state. And after that, start asking the question, who's the real sovereign? Guess what's going to protect us? Our consanguinity, our state, and our treaties. That's where it starts. Let's continue. So we're talking status, right? Status and state go together. Status and state go together. Status and state go together. So we're going to look at the definition of state, which is, I believe, on page 1578.
State, verb, to express the particulars of a thing in writing or in words, to set down or set forth in detail, to aver, allege, or declare.
Stop. So case law. So state, well, wait a minute. Black's Law Dictionary doesn't hardly ever put 8 parts of speech on their definitions. So therefore, when you see V, we know that's a verb, 8 parts of speech. A verb is what? An action. So it's an action, an act. So the state means the act of creating the legislation, the Constitution, to create your state and start checking the boxes. That's the action. The first thing is state of mind. That's the first action, becoming competent. Second action is breaking out your pen and scribing your political documents. That creates the state along with your population. Your population creates the state. That's the verb. That's the action. Okay, continue, Mother.
State, noun. A people permanently occupying a fixed territory bound together by common law, habits and custom into one body, politic, exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent sovereignty and control over all persons and things within its boundaries, capable of making war and peace and of entering into international relation with other communities of the globe.
Stop. Thank you very much, Mother. It speaks for itself what state means, a noun. Now, they'll say noun means person, place, or thing, but the reality is a noun is people, place, or thing. Noun is people, place, or thing, as it relates to nationals. Watch this. A people permanently occupying a fixed territory. When you put together your constitution, you're also going to put in your latitude, longitude that describes your permanent territory. Have Moors done that? No. AMPAC has done it. There's an overwhelming probability of the Moors have not set aside their constitution that outlines their permanent territory. Together by common law. You see that hyphen in that common law? That represents persons. That's common law and a feudal law. So when Moors read the Black's Law Dictionary, so they see that hyphen, that's feudal law. The word common law is 2 separate words, no hyphen. Common law is based upon the ancient, archaic way our ancient mothers and fathers did things. So when you see the hyphen, they put it together, that's feudal law. Because feudal law does have states. It's called de facto states. That's the truth. So common law, habits, and customs into one body politic. Body politic is what? State. Exercising through the medium of an organized government. They tell you right then and there. What is a state? Government. Moors need a government in order to be Moorish nationals. You can't be self-appointed. You must have a government in order to have a state. Independent sovereignty. Moors want to enforce their sovereignty. You can't do it without a state. And control over people and things within its boundaries. So your constitution creates the boundaries of your provincial government, the latitude, longitude. capable of making war and peace. You want to enforce the treaties of peace and friendship? And you need to have a state. And of entertaining into international relations with other communities of the globe. Moors want to talk to United Nations? You need a state. Moors want to negotiate treaties with another nation? United States of America is a separate nation. De facto. Yes, a corporation, but de facto nonetheless. We want to negotiate. Moors want to negotiate as nationals with the United States of America. You got to have a state. If you don't have a state, you can't negotiate. That's the truth. Okay, Mother, let's continue.
The organization of social life which exercise sovereign power in behalf of the people.
Stop. So, state is all about the organization. What's the organization? The government of social life, which exercises sovereign power. What exercises sovereign power? The state's authority. What is nationals, Moorish nationals, who are elected officials, not self-appointed, elected officials that govern the affairs of their nationals. So what does it say? The organization of social life would exercise a sovereign power on behalf of the people, not persons. See that? They make it interchangeable because the United States of America knows they got to keep sliding the word person and individuals because that's what their legislation says. Because everybody is, and the status was called Civiliter Mortuus. But Moors must study and understand, use the word people. Continue, Mother.
One of the component commonwealths or state of the United States of America, the term is sometimes applied also to governmental agencies authorized by state, such as municipal corporations.
Stop. Thank you, Mother. Watch this. They telling us the answers to the test, Moors. One of the components commonwealths or states of the United States of America. Wait, I thought they was the United States. Oh, see, United States of America, not to be confused with the United States. Two separate entities, but they use them interchangeably. The term is sometimes applied also to governmental agencies authorized by state. Moors want authorization to do what they're doing? You need a state. Now, they talk about their municipal corporation, so watch this. We tell people, United States of America is a corporation. Moors tell them, United States is a corporation. Guess what they just said? Such as municipal corporations. They just call themselves a corporation. Okay, Mother, let's continue.
The people of a state, in their collective capacity, considered as the party wronged by a criminal deed. The public, as in the title of a cause, the state versus A.B.
Okay, all right. So that's relatively easy to understand. The people of a state. Only way you can be people. More say, I'm not person, I'm not individual. Yes, you are. Because you still come under the protection of the United States, because you're still an ipso jure Moorish subject. Because you're still a protege. If you're not a Moorish national, then guess what? So therefore, what I'm saying is this. Moors can't be classified as people until they become Moorish nationals of their own state. I'll say it again. If you come under the protection of the United States of America, United States of America, and Moors don't have their own state, if you don't have a state, you're still classified as a citizen of the United States. And they don't call their citizens people. They call them persons and individuals. So Moors want to be people? Great. Pick a status. Subject, protege, or national. You want to be people? Must be national. That's the truth. Okay. So let's read again. The people of a state in their collective capacity considered as the party wronged by a criminal deed. So we keep saying the United States of America is criminals. Okay, what did they do wrong? Let me rephrase the question. What have the Moors done wrong in order to say the United States is criminals? We failed to create a state.
Right.
So if the United States is criminals, being de facto, then what is our status since we didn't do nothing at all? Are we the de jure state? Yes, by our moral authority. But moral authority has no judicial standby in international courts. So therefore, if we say they de facto, what are Moors if they don't have nothing? You see, this is the conflict of interest that the Moors have put themselves into. I'm going to continuously qualifying this. I'll prove it. Watch this. Go ahead, Mother, continue.
The section of territory occupied by one of the United States.
Continue.
The circumstances or condition of a being or a thing at a given time.
Continue. Let's go to foreign state.
A foreign country or nation. The several United States are considered foreign to each other except as regards their relation as common members of the Union.
Stop. Wait a minute. The United States of America and its several 50 states are all foreign to each other. They're all claiming a status under jurisdiction at their borders of each one of their 50 alleged states jurisdiction corporations are all foreign to each other. So therefore, when Moors are nationals of their own state, and we tell the United States of America we're a foreign state under diversity of state, they already know what diversity of state means because they see all their states as being foreign. So the conversation we're having with them is not brand new. All of them see each other as foreign states. They all have what? A constitution, a seal, and call themselves a state. So the United States of America has 50 states, they got 50 flags, and then their mother flag is the United States banner. So there's 51 flags. 52 if you count District of Columbia. My question to the Moors is, where's the Moorish flag? They'll tell you, oh, here's our flag right here. That's the East State flag. The Moorish Empire is the world. The world has 54 state flags that represents the Moroccan flag, mother flag. In Africa, there's 54 states. Those 54 state flags are the state flags to this East State flag. Europe has 50 state flags. Their state flag is the state flag to this East State flag. Continent of America has 35 states. All of them have a flag, but that flag is part and parcel to this mother flag. This is the East State flag. Moors are no different than any other state. This might be the mother flag, but the Moors have to now be part and parcel of the East State. They must, according to international law, have their own state. They can't claim the world. You must have a political jurisdiction for your community. The East State flag represents clans, tribes, villages, cities, counties, states, countries, and nations. That's what this flag represents. But we must be part and parcel of this said East State of Northwest of Mexico. That's the truth. Okay, Mother. So now that we've got a fundamental understanding of status and state, they go together. Judge Jay Bey talks about status. The status is what? We haven't been studying international law. We checked the first box, but we didn't check the rest of the box to create the state. Okay. I always try to give reference points as it relates to when I say we must have a state. Watch this. I'm going to go over to what's called the International Court of Justice Handbook. The International Court of Justice Handbook. So those Moors at home, when you're searching, look up ICJ Handbook Manual. Okay? ICJ Handbook Manual. Well, what is this? This is the handbook that the ICJ, the 15 judges that have been elected to the ICJ in the Netherlands. This is the handbook. In the handbook, we'll quickly just assess some of the reading really quickly. Watch this. We're going to read just a quick couple of paragraphs of the history. Watch this. The role of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, which has its seat in the Hague of the Netherlands, is to settle in accordance with the international law disputes submitted to it by states. In addition, certain international organs and agencies are entitled to call upon it for advisory opinions, also known as the World Court, quote unquote. The ICJ is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It was set up in June 1945 under the Charter of the United Nations and began its activities in April 1946. So it immediately tells you what's their delegation of authority. United Nations Charter. Now watch this. Now let's go down to what they call Section 3. The parties. This is the ICJ handbook. This is international law. This is reference point. I'm qualifying what I'm saying about the state. Watch this. What does ICJ and United Nations say about states? Number 3, the parties. You want to be a party to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship? Article 1 says the parties. Only states may be parties to cases before the court. So every time Moors walk into a venue, if they don't have a state, they're not a party to the treaty they try to enforce. It is the function of the ICJ to decide in accordance with international law disputes of legal nature that are submitted to it by states. That's as far as I'm going with this. This is qualified. Moors must study international law if they want to enforce the treaties. They must be Moorish nationals. Ipso jure Moorish subjects can't enforce treaties. You're stateless people. Moorish proteges cannot enforce treaties. You're stateless people. Only Moorish nationals can enforce treaties because you have a state. And the ICJ will now deal with your dispute because you've checked the boxes. That's the truth. Now, wait a minute. What started all this? It started with France in 1952. France got the ICJ to disclose a lot of things for Moors. Don't get me wrong, France was fighting for some jurisdiction over the French zone in the Moroccan Empire. But France got the ICJ to disclose some things. The ICJ disclosed some things that helped the United States of America and hurt the Moorish subjects and the Moorish proteges. But it also helped the Moorish nationals to understand what we was doing wrong. But Moors have been, their misconceptions, misinterpretations of what's happening, what the ICJ said. Watch this, we'll go through it in detail today. So for Moors at home, you want to look up the case concerning rights of nationals of the United States of America in Morocco, the judgment of August 27th, 1952. So this is the summary page, summary page, summary page. But this is what the United States of America is using to maintain jurisdiction over Moorish subjects and Moorish proteges. So what you do is when you find it, you go to Article 2. If I want to mothers read Article 2 again, please.
Unanimously, with regard to consular jurisdiction in the French zone of Morocco, the United States is entitled to exercise such jurisdiction in accordance with the terms of its treaty with Morocco of September 16, 1836. That is to say, in all disputes, civil or criminal, between citizens or protégés of the United States.
Okay. Moors must start comprehending what does this mean. Let's read it again. Let's use some more science, which means forensics. First things first, it was a unanimous decision by all the competent judges of the world court. This is qualified. Unanimous. With regard to consular jurisdiction in the French zone of Morocco, which is the Moroccan Empire, the United States is entitled to exercise such jurisdiction in accordance with the terms of its treaty with Morocco of September 16, 1836, was the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1836. That is to say, in all disputes, civil or criminal, between citizens or protégés of the United States. Who are the citizens they're talking about? They're talking about the Moorish citizens and all the United States of America citizens. Citizen is a citizen because they created the 14th Amendment. They declassified the Moors and made them citizens. They also did that in 1871. They did that in 1870. 1870, Naturalization Act. 1871, District of Columbia. So they changed everyone's status. So why are they talking about 1836? Let's find out what the ICJ is trying to say about a bilateral treaty. The bilateral treaty between Moors and the United States of America. Moors, United States of America. Watch this. We're going to go to 1836. That's what they pointed out, right? They're talking about Article 20. Article 20 says, if any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any dispute with each other, the council shall decide between the parties. And whenever the council shall require any aid or assistance from our government to enforce its decisions, it shall be immediately granted to him. What's happening during this time? During this time, France is helping as being the council. Why does France have to help Moors as council? You know why? Because Moors in the northwest of Mexico, the Maghreb, Alexa, didn't have a government. We didn't have a government to represent ourselves over here in what's commonly known as North America. So Moors must understand we need our own government to represent ourselves because the Moroccan Empire is vast. Article 20 says it all. This is what the ICJ is using. Get back to point. So what their ICJ is saying, the United States of America has a state, but the Moors have failed to come back to their government and claim their submission to the Moroccan government as nationals. Moors are listed as subjects and protégés, and until we come back on the record to a Moroccan government, we're still listed as subjects and protégés. We're still under the protections of the United States of America, because in the treaty, we are cohabitating, but the Sultan told George Washington, remember in George Washington's letter? He says that he was not going to harm them and he was not going to remove them. Who's the them? Moors. So the Sultan's like, listen, France gonna look out for my Moors over there, and the United States better look out for them too, because that's what the treaty's about. It's about treating each other in harmony. It's amity and commerce. But what happened? We got colonized. And so did Morocco. The Kingdom of Morocco got colonized too. So we had no governments in northwestern Mexico, the Maghreb, Alexa. The Sultans knew this though. France knew this. How do I know? ICJ is using it saying, Moors' responsibility to come back to their government. Watch this. 1880, Treaty of Madrid, protections in Morocco. Article 15, It gives specific instruction that Moors have been failing to do. We'll read it aloud one more time, Mother, please. Article 15.
Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco.
Stop. Moors keep forgetting what this is saying. It's very specific, but yet, if you don't know what you're reading, you'll miss it every time. Watch this. Any subject of Morocco, first thing you must understand, as soon as they say Morocco, they're talking about what? A state. Morocco, although it's an empire, is the empire state. So if you coming back to Morocco, you coming back to the government of Morocco. Moors haven't been coming back to the government of Morocco, the state, the empire state of duly elected officials that are the state representatives. To do what? To do what? Let's read it. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country, United States of America, and who shall return to Morocco, return to Moroccan state government, shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between the entire submission to the laws of the empire state and the obligations to acquit the Morocco empire state, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country has obtained with the consent of the government of the Morocco empire state. Moors just been filling out proclamation documentation. They didn't follow the instructions. You got to come back to a Moorish government. But here's the problem. Northwestern Mexico don't have a government. Don't get me wrong, AMPAC has a state government. There's an overwhelming probability the other Moors out there don't have a state government. Moors either create their own state government in the Moroccan Empire, or they need to come back to a Moroccan government in northwestern Mexico. But they have to come back to a Morocco government nonetheless in order to come back as Moorish nationals. Until then, you're still subjects, proteges. Moors ain't been reading this right. So the ICJ is doing what? The ICJ is looking at 3 treaties. 1836, Treaty of Madrid. You're looking at 1836, Treaty of Peace and Friendship. You're looking at the 1880 Treaty of Madrid, because they're looking at Article 15 saying these Moors ain't done their own part. And so Moors got to wake up and create their state and then bring their disputes to the UN. What else are they looking at? 1906, Act of Algeciras. Article 101. If the mothers can read it, please. Article 101.
Article 101. The Moorish customs authorities shall directly inform the diplomatic or consular agents of any violations of this regulation which may have been committed by those under their jurisdiction, in order that they may be prosecuted before the competent court.
Continue.
Similar violations by Moorish subjects shall be brought directly by the customs before the Sharifan authority. A delegate of the customs shall be charged to follow the legal proceedings in cases pending before the several jurisdictions.
Okay, wait a minute. What are they saying here? Keep in mind, we're going to go back to the ICJ document because Article 2 and 3. We only read Article 2. We're going to go back. Article 1. The Moorish customs authorities. First things first. Who has authority? States. So Moors don't have authority. Shall directly inform the diplomat. Who's diplomats? Of a government state. Or consular agents. Can't be a consular agent unless you're affiliated with state. Or any violations of this regulation which may have been committed by those under their jurisdiction, in order that they may be prosecuted before the competent court. Moors in northwestern Mexico haven't had states to deal with their own Moors who are creating criminal and civil cases. So under 101, Algeciras said when Moors create a state, they can deal with their own civil and criminal adjudications. But until we have a state, guess what? The United States of America is dealing with the criminal and civil matters of people who even say they got a nationality card. Why? Because people with a nationality card fail to check the rest of the boxes. So 101, going back to the top, the Moorish customs authority shall directly inform the diplomat of consular agents of any violation of this regulation which may have been committed by those under their jurisdiction, in order that they may be prosecuted before the competent court. So that's Moors taking care of Moors. And then when Moors deal with a United States citizen who's violating the law, we got to let the United States know so they can deal with their own citizen. But until we have a state, we have no state rights. We're stateless people. Watch this. Similar violations by Moorish subjects shall be brought directly by the customs before the Sharifan authority. So what's happening? The United States of America was supposed to be bringing more subjects to the Sharifan authority. Why haven't they been doing that? Because the Moors are classified as subjects, proteges, i.e. citizens of the United States, and there's no government in northwestern Mexico, i.e. a consulate. There's no consular courts of Morocco here in northwestern Mexico. The United States did an excellent job to make sure that Moors had no protections in northwestern Mexico. So which means the Moors' successors, descendants, must create their own state government in the Moroccan Empire, just like everybody else did in our empire. Moors are no different. Watch this. A delegate of the customs shall be charged to follow the legal proceedings in cases pending before the several jurisdictions. Who's going to be delegated? You got to be an official of the state to delegate someone. Moors ain't got a state. So they can't delegate no one to be consul on behalf of their Moors. We don't have consular courts. Don't get me wrong, AMPAC has consular court, but the other Moors, there's a high probability they don't have a state to enforce consular court to deal with their own nationals. Let's go to Article 2, please.
Article 2. Every
Confiscation.
Every confiscation, fine, or penalty must be imposed on foreigners by consular jurisdiction and on Moorish subject by Sharifan jurisdiction.
They're talking government again. Every confiscation, fine, or penalty must be imposed on foreigners by consular jurisdictions. So foreigners can only deal with consular court. Why? Because now you're dealing with what? Diversity of state, diversity of nation. So consular court becomes the referee. To deal with these two nations. Guess who has the original jurisdiction in northwestern Mexico? Moorish nationals. Because we're the sovereigns. We create the consular court. Based upon what? Article 20. If any of the citizens of the United States or any persons under their protection shall have any dispute with each other, the council shall decide between the parties. This is why Dwight D. Eisenhower got rid of consular court in 1956. That way the Moors wouldn't have no remedy to call for consular court. But there was no Moorish consular courts in northwestern Mexico. Read again. Every confiscation, fine, or penalty must be imposed on foreigners by consular jurisdiction and on Moorish subjects by Sharifan jurisdiction. Sharifan jurisdiction is Moorish nationals who are authorized officials to deal with consular court. If you don't have a state, you can't be in a Sharifan authority. You can't be a Sharifan official. The United States of America did an excellent job along with the COINTEL Moors, sellout Moors, and conversal Moors helped to get rid of any remedy that Moors would have to get their national rights back. How does the United States of America, as being a separate nation, how the authority to get rid of consular court is because they got every right to get rid of their own consular court. That immediately tells you northwestern Mexico didn't have no consular courts. Moors didn't have consular courts of their own. The United States of America got rid of their consular courts. In northwestern Mexico, where was the Moors consular court? Moors saying, man, Dwight D. Eisenhower got rid of consular court. So? Why do I say so? If the Moors had been enforcing their own consular courts, having their state and their government, it wouldn't have made no difference what the United States did. We could enforce our own consular courts. This is why I'm trying to tell you, Moors didn't have governments in northwestern Mexico. So now we have to create our own because we're part of the Moroccan Empire. We have every right under post-millennium sovereignty, consanguinity to create our own governments. Guess who's been trying to get us to create our own governments all this time? France and the United Nations. Rights of indigenous people. Find out the mothers read Section 3 of the ICJ. This is the ICJ. This is part 3. Watch what they say. Watch this.
By 10 votes to 1, it is also entitled to exercise consular jurisdiction in all cases, civil or criminal, brought against citizens or proteges of the United States to the extent.
Just a moment. Okay.
Required by the provisions of the Act of Algeciras relating to consular jurisdiction.
So we already went on the Act of Algeciras, which was under part 3 of what they said. What did they do? Watch this, Moors. Listen. The ICJ gave us a roadmap. They said, Moors, you need to go back to 1836, the bilateral treaty between Moors and the United States, and create your state and bring your disputes to us in the ICJ. Until then, you're subject or protege. They said, Moors, Section 3, go back to the 1906 Act of Algeciras and understand what Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 is all about. It's talking about jurisdiction. Until then, you're still subject and protege. You're still United States citizens. Until you create your state. They gave us a road map. Guess what else they talking about? The Treaty of 1880, Article 15. They're saying, Moors, y'all gotta read international law. There's nothing the United Nations can do to help us, Moors. We gotta help ourselves and follow instructions. That's the truth. Until then, we are stateless people. We can't enforce nothing. We can't be self-appointed nothing. Tajri Bey been giving us the answers to the test for the longest. He kept saying, we need a nation state, a nation state, a nation state. Then he kept saying, status, status, status. What was he saying? Follow international law. You can can have your nationality, but you're still a stateless people with a nationality. Until you check the box, you're subject and protege. You want to be a Moorish national, enforce the treaties, and get your sovereignty back? You need a state.
Good evening. I am Kanye Show Bey, Consul General for AMPAC, a state provincial government in Morocco. AMPAC meaning Allodium, Moorish Praedium, Ante, Colorado.